No, your son never leaves the house. Every minute glued to that machine.
It's a tablet.
Well, he spends more time with his tablet than Moses.
Hey!
You're not gonna waste your summer like this.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Where are you individually at?
I am coming to you live from Southampton, New York.
Wow, in a very fancy room. I'll say that much.
Maybe.
I'm in a much smaller apartment here in the city.
I like how you're dressed for occasion. I feel so underdressed now with you guys. Gee, thanks.
You look
I
great.
work at house, Tim, so it's all good.
Well, I just talked to Owen and Tony. They're having a blast individually too, so it's cool to connect with you two. Want to start? What was kind of now that the movie is completed and we get to talk about it? I'm gonna start with you, Anastasia. What was your kind of favorite experience of working on it, either on set or off set? Any sort of memories that really stayed with you that you hold to today?
The first thing that I think of when you say that is I live in Tribeca. I had never in all my years living in Manhattan been to Staten Island. I would wake up every morning. I would take the Staten Island ferry. And when I tell you I would have like a 5:30 wake up call, that means people that went out the night before in the city are taking the same ferry when I'm on my way to work. So I just got to know this whole new world, man. It was awesome. I felt like I really loved Staten Island. It reminded me kind of a lot where I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts. Kind of had its own thing going and a lot of edge, a lot of grit. It felt familiar. I loved shooting there. I loved meeting Jules's family. Again, it felt very familiar. So I just I loved it. I hope that I get to shoot something else in Staten Island. It was great.
There you go. Whole new world open up to you next door. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Jules, what about you? I mean, you've obviously, this has been this has been your project, your baby in a sense, in so many ways. Now looking back, what are some things you're proud of and favorite things kind of you achieved after you completed this whole thing?
Thanks, Jim. I'm proud of the film. I keep saying this to colleagues, like I cannot imagine what this moment is like if you're not proud of what you just made, because it just takes so long and it's such a process. And there are literal blood, sweat, and tears along the way. And so, if you get to this point and you're not happy with it, my heart breaks because I can only imagine the struggle in that moment. The film came out really well. I'm really happy with it. And I'm so proud of the cast and crew. I'm so proud of all. We have about 500 people who were involved in the making of the movie. And so I'm so proud of the community who came together to help us make it. I'm proud of my family for their role in helping us make it. Our investors, our supporters. It's been a really wonderful experience. So, I get lost in the details sometimes, and every now and then I have to just step back and realize what exactly has happened.
Yeah, it's a big team effort to create something like that. It takes a whole, it's not one chef, it's a whole restaurant, to put it together in that way.
It takes a borough. That's what I keep saying.
Well, there you go, in that way. I love the film in a sense. It had such a strong Italian feel and taste to it, and just like a European sensibility with food and family and just the whole thing. It's kind of that it's rooted in a different culture in so many ways, even though it's kind of like it takes place obviously in New York, but it had such a European sense to it. And Anastasia, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, you're Greek, so you're kind of familiar in a sense with the European culture in so many ways. How did that feel to you personally, having to do a film that, in a sense, it might be a little bit more relatable to your upbringing?
It was my upbringing, first generation Greek American, and spent every summer in Greece. Sandwiched in between, my grandmother and my uncle who lived next door. Loud, intrusive, absolutely lovely, huge privilege to grow up this way. And I think a lot of that's gotten lost as we begin to migrate and our families, we all move further and further away from each other. So for me, it was just lovely. I really felt like I was surrounded by family. I love the message that the film will give about family. And, you know, I think it's important. I think it's important to keep up with our traditions and to foster these connections with the next generation, like we see Marco doing with Nono. And like I am in my own life, I'm very proud of being able to facilitate that with my children and my parents, because it takes work, it takes discipline, and then you get to reap the benefits of that, right? So the message is just awesome. Are you Greek, Jim Alexander?
No, but I get it a lot. I get it
Okay.
all the time. Actually, so I'm mainly Polish, actually, which people don't believe,
Okay.
but my father is like from Yugoslavia, so the Serbian region
Okay.
right there. So I'm familiar. I've been to Greece. I've been to Italy. I grew up actually in Europe and Poland. So for me, it's
Okay.
like this movie makes sense on so many levels.
You got it.
There you go.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's great.
Jules, how about you? I mean, there must have been a strong background sense for you, and just putting that flair and feel out to this movie too, right? That must have felt special in a lot of ways too.
For sure. I had so much fun with it because I'm from Staten Island. We shot in my hometown, but I love old Italian movies. I really love the 50s and the 60s. You know, that canon is so incredible to me. So I wanted to pull as much of that feel as I could create and put in this movie. So I had fun with doing it. It was a real big challenge. It was a challenge, you know, production wise, and a challenge creatively, and a challenge financially, and all of those things. But, you know, whenever I could make it feel European in that sense, it really was what I wanted, because, you know, that this Anastasia and I are in this middle generation where we have seen our grandparents come over. We have seen our parents assimilate. We have assimilated ourselves if we were born here, for sure. And if not, if we came over. But now we have a generation behind us who is living a life that's so different than ours and is wildly different than the one before us. So, you know, I think we're really lucky to be able to be in that middle situation and that middle role, because we get to see it all and sort of be the bridge between the two, which I wanted the movie to be. You know, I wanted the movie, there's a theme and a motif of bridges in the movie, and that's what I wanted the movie to be. You know, a bridge from Brooklyn to Staten Island, yes, but a bridge between the generations, a bridge between Europe and America, a bridge between the old and the new. So it was important to me to make sure that that was clear visually as well.
Well, that's well said. I like the connection of a bridge. That makes sense in so many ways too. Jules, I'm going to stay with you for a second. Was there any other consideration besides Bocce to make it another game? Because I mean, Bocce is a character in this movie. Was there ever any other choice or idea? I mean, I can't see it now after seeing this movie. I'm like, I thought it was a perfect fit. But did you ever consider anything else?
That's such a great question, because all of my friends laugh, because if, you know me well, you know that there was never in a million years did anyone think I'd make a sports movie as my first movie. But you know, I grew up playing games with my grandparents, and we played a lot of cards. And it's kind of weird to make a movie about cards. So I wanted something that was more active, that was more visual, that was outdoors, that represented the legacy of the grandfather. And my nephew, who the movie is loosely based on, he has a grandfather on his other side who plays a lot of bocce. And so it made sense.
Interesting. I love your character, Anastasia. Like, in a sense, she's a mother that's, you know what, I like that, because she's kind of stern, and she doesn't let the kid run the household in so many ways, you know? So I felt that was like the very European sense about it. I'm like, oh, they nailed that part, because there's actual, you know, there's punishments, and you're not going to get away. The mom of the house rules things in so many ways. But man, I don't know, how did she decide to marry that guy? Because first of all, he doesn't know how to pick women, because he clearly downgraded in a lot of ways. And
I think you're right about that.
I think he totally did and missed out the point. But tell me the sense of you being a mom and bringing that to the role, because I felt like, oh, this is a real mom right here, because it wasn't played on so much. It was a real authenticity about it.
She is a real mom. It was her first time playing mom in Hollywood, which was real crazy for me. You know, I've been in this career for a long time, and I felt in a lot of ways, holy moly, this is it. This is the moment I've always wanted. And I'm not hiding behind the makeup and the hair. I was very postpartum. I was still kind of like nursing. I was very much not in my body when like we were filming it. And so it was a very raw version of me. And, you know, I think Anna's character is in that place where she's lost so much that she's really stepping into her power and into her greatness. And she's starting to see the light. And I think she realizes, you know, the benefit of boundaries, and also showing this child, dear sweet Marco, all the love she can and still setting those boundaries. And with her father as well. You know, you have that scene, you know, between them, and she says, you know, he cannot go on a Vespa. You cannot do things like this without a helmet. So we see these kind of generational issues come up, and I think she wins when she starts to stick to her guns, and you see her evolve into a happy person that's accepted like her past and ready to move forward. And I loved digging my teeth into that part. Anna meant a lot to me. It was a really beautiful character for me to play.
Yeah, I just felt the rawness and authenticity of it. Totally. I'm like, yeah, I can see that mom figure. And it's such a strong character, dealing kind of like, in a sense, kids on both the different spectrums here, age-wise and stuff. And she was like the rock and the ultimate decider and the judge between everything, you know, to keep things in line and straight.
I'm glad you saw that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It was fun playing with Tony and Owen, being the boss with those two guys.
Jules, I'm going to get back to you now. I was actually really surprised to see what happened in the movie. I never saw, like, as I'm watching the movie, that the grandfather would get sick so spontaneously out of nowhere and get to the hospital. And there's this like emotional burden that like gets thrown at you kind of out of nowhere. That was really surprising. Did you ever consider of that incident happening and not? How important was that? Because I felt like it really wrapped up the story in an interesting way and brought like the emotional side to it, like really quickly on.
Sure. You know, we had two teams in the cast and crew, and without giving anything away, there were two ways we could have gone at the end, and that was definitely hotly debated among all of us. But I felt really strongly that a dynamic that is part of your relationship with your grandparents is that at any moment it could be over. And you know, it was important to me to portray what it really feels like when you think everything's going right and then suddenly that's not the case. And so, you know, I'm experiencing it with my grandmother now, who's 95, and she's in the movie. The vintage footage, the 8mm footage is all of her in the 1960s.
Wow, okay.
So, you know, she's 95 now. She had a mini stroke a few weeks ago. And so it's a really tough moment when you realize like, oh, they're not going to be here forever. And it makes the time you have with them precious. So, you know, the decision to unravel the narrative as it unravels was intentional in that way, because I really wanted the audience to feel what it's like when suddenly you get a call that things are not going the way they should. So
that's the reality of life. In so many, I thought that was the most kind of a real moment, because like life hits you in so many ways you never expected. Even things are going bad or good, and you just kind of have to go with it, you know, and figure it out in the moment. So I felt that was another authentic part of this film.
And this moment.
Gonna wrap it up with both of you. Kind of the same question. I am always interested. I just found out that Owen's crocheting and that Tony is like a master chef, apparently, an amateur master chef. He's cooking all these elaborate dishes. What are some things you guys like to do for fun or interests and hobbies that you have on the side when you're not kind of involved with acting or filmmaking in that sense? I'm gonna start with you, Anastasia.
I am throwing myself into a bucket list venture. I've always wanted to compile a book of my family's Greek peasant recipes. And when my father passed away a year ago, I decided to put that project in motion. all of a sudden it had a totally different meaning. So we've been manuscripting and measuring and recipe testing, and we found a really beautiful following that's really interested in doing that. And I am also selling Greek olive oil.
Oh my God.
Another
So
thing
good.
that
The
I've
best
kind
olive
of
oil.
always wanted to do. Yeah, I'm super passionate about food. Again, it's a gift that was given to me from my grandparents, and so I've really been enjoying laying all that out, the foundation to have that in place for the kids. It's been wonderful.
Any new recipes that you cooked up that you're proud of sharing?
Hundreds.
Oh, okay.
Hundreds.
Well, there you
I don't know
go.
what else to tell you.
We have a second career for you here.
They're predominantly vegan. You know, they're olive oil based. They come from this very small part of Greece that's on the borderline of distinction at this point. Legumes and vegetables and all this really great stuff that's good for you. The little bit of meat and fish. So yeah, it's a whole group of fabulous recipes that were passed down to me from my family.
Wow, where do I get a recipe for that? I think I might need it myself to get on a better diet.
Fancypeasant.com.
Okay, there you go. I will check it out. I guarantee you that.
Thanks, Jim.
What about you, Jules?
I'm a terrible cook, so.
Well, you have two good Greek cooks, and Tony and Anastasia there. So there you go.
I didn't get that gene from my Italian family. All of the women in our family are incredible cooks. Some of the men as well, but I am not. So over the pandemic, I have perfected what I call drunk chicken, which is just a chicken breast in a frying pan, and you pour wine over it. That's it. So
I love it. Well, maybe get some of that Greek olive oil, and then you have a perfect combination of blends right there. Oh, that's awesome. That's so fun. I love hearing these things. You see, that's the kind of stuff you never get, unless you find out. Well, terrific job, guys. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it had a lot of heart and a good message, and I just love the European vibe to it that, you know, you don't typically get in a sense in like a lot of American films that felt very authentic. So terrific work by everyone. Everyone had their place and certain character that resonated, which is credit to you, Jules, for making everyone stand out in this movie. And I felt did a terrific job.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much. I am going to look up your recipes. So there you go. I'll let you know if I can.
I think you'll like them. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident you'll love them.
I'm ready to try. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Stay
so
safe
Jen,
and healthy. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Young people now have too much happening in front of them. It's not about thinking. Bocce is like life. You have to feel it.